versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're live here on WYSL until 2 p.m. So give us a call if you want to participate in the show. 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or you can comment online as well. And I put the 800 number there as well if you want to call in online. But again, here until 2 p.m. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. Happy to hear about whatever topic you want to chat about. You know, I have a few things on my mind, though. I'm going to be a contrarian today. That's more than usual. I should put an asterisk on more than usual. Be a contrarian today. I'm going to talk about a couple issues where, you know, the right thing and the popular thing aren't always in alignment. You know, it's a little bit in the weeds about tax policy, about funding things that seem fun, that are good connections to a community, and a few other things as well, right? So at least the first half of the show, I want to talk about a couple of those things, because I want to talk about the New York State gas tax briefly again, and what impact it had. And then I also want to talk about the funding that the Seneca Park Zoo is getting. Again, they're getting $121 million to go and build a bunch of stuff. And I want to talk about, does that make sense? Does it make sense to get that money from the state, from the county, et cetera? No, regardless of how you feel about like the zoo itself, which I like, my son seems to like, and, you know, we've taken him a couple of times now. And it's just a question of like, is it the role of government to fund that sort of thing? Does it make sense to fund that sort of thing given the circumstances that we're in now? And that's a story that happened like 4 weeks ago. It's already an accomplished thing, right? Like there's no stopping it at this point. It's already done. I missed it when I was sick and never got back to it. Now I'm going to have my contrarian day. I'm going to talk about those things again. But first, let's talk about the New York State gas tax. So this is something that went to effect June 1st. And I talked about this, like the chances are we're not going to even notice this gas tax. It was a quick, you know, hit from New York State to make us feel good. It, you know, ends up taking off like 16 cents a gallon, like cool. I do love reducing taxes everywhere we can. My thing about that is that when you're doing that, we also need to reduce the expenditures that are going to happen in tandem, because if you don't do that, if you don't stop spending that money or pause spending that money, you end up having to tax somewhere else. It has to come from somebody. Either you have to add a tax elsewhere, or you don't pay for it and you take on debt, which can sort of happen on the state level, but it's a little bit complicated, you know, or you let whatever thing that tax is funding fall into disrepair. In this case, the gas tax funds roads and bridges and whatnot, right? Like, again, responsible governance. This isn't like just a libertarian thing. This is a responsible governance that should exist across all parties, anyone in office. Like this, it's a short-term, quick political win to say, oh my goodness, we just gotta lower the tax, and then that's going to make everyone feel good because gas prices are so high. Democrats, they're bragging about it. The Republicans are like, well, you know, what we're going to do is make it permanent. Again, no long-term solution to this. Like it's not responsible governance. Again, I'll talk lowering taxes all day, but it's not responsible governance from Republicans or Democrats to lower taxes without a plan to either reduce spending or pay for it somewhere else. Again, who was it? It was I'm trying to remember which Libertarian Party leader gave a speech at one of the state conventions, and it's like, if you're going to do that, libertarians like, okay, well, what do we want to do? Well, we want to lower taxes because taxation is theft, and cut spending accordingly. Just cut it. Just again, maybe we don't need the service. Maybe we don't need to pay for these things, which is going to get me to my second point too. But with the New York State gas tax, are we really going to notice? Are we really attacking the core problem here? Again, 16 cents a gallon. I'll share a link online too on some data for New York State. In the last week, gas prices in New York have gone from uh was it 485 to 477. So on average, an 8-cent drop. And if gas keeps going the direction that we think it's going, maybe it'll change, maybe it'll reverse course, maybe we'll get lower. But if it keeps going up, any of those gains from tax reduction have been lost. It's kind of my point. Is again, we didn't address the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is that a lot of us are still paying a boatload of money because certain policies and world events have contributed to a situation where we both are reliant on needing gas and it's expensive now. And that is U.S. policy and world events, some of which I won't blame Joe Biden for all of it, just some of it. It's not all in his control, but we're in a situation where many of us, many folks listening today, still have to rely on their cars. It's just what it is, and it's going to continue to be that way. Some of us by choice, some of us just because that's what the best option is for the time being. And so, if we don't address those fundamental issues with being able to increase supply, creating viable alternatives to be able to do that, and by creating, I don't mean the government creating those alternatives. I mean allowing market alternatives for people to be able to find transportation outside of using a car. If we don't address those core fundamental issues, then this is just a quick, again, it's a quick short-term political victory. It feels good before a primary is coming up, just like those early star checks that are coming out from Governor Hochul's. Just feels good. See, I lowered your taxes. Hooray. What's your long-term plan? What's the long-term plan here to pay for this stuff? Because again, we do have an infrastructure issue in New York State. It's expensive to pay for roads and bridges in New York State because we have we have wild weather. It is what it is. Again, as much as I want to go on a rant about hating roads, and that's the inside joke among libertarians, they're still necessary. We still got to pay for them somehow. This because the state has built them. The state and to some extent local and county governments too, and federal government. Some places there's an obligation to maintain this infrastructure that they've built. Yet we have it. We've got to maintain it somehow instead of building more roads and letting them get trashed and doing nothing about it and creating unsafe conditions for people riding on the highways. That's something that I hope the listeners today can take out of this one rank. And it's not that I'm against lowering taxes. It's because I am. It's just that, okay, what's the next step? What sacrifice are you going to make if the state says they're collecting those taxes to pay for this thing? It's either going to come from elsewhere, or they're going to neglect something, or they're going to take on debt. Those are the three options. What's the next thing? Start asking. If politicians, especially ones who are in primaries, are going to start doing public events, ask them about this stuff. What's the next step here? And shout out to folks listening today again. Shelly on YouTube says, good afternoon. Hey, Shelly, thanks for listening today. John on Facebook says, here in Plattsburgh, gas dropped about 20 cents, but 2 days later went up 45 cents. Gas range is 485 to 504 a gallon. Yeah, and again, it was a short-term political, we knew the people are still going to be hurting because the fundamental issues causing gas to rise haven't been addressed. They just want something to brag about so they can send it out on. I haven't personally got one of these, but I imagine someone call in or comment in if you got one of these, those dumb mailers that you get from elected officials, bragging about what they've done. Those things, they're corrupt as heck to me. I hate those things. But they're like, oh, see, we passed a gas tax holiday and we banned guns or whatever, whatever they're bragging about, depending on who they're targeting. That's what they wanted it for. It feels like. Again, you correct me if I'm wrong. If there's a longer term issue here, and I'm not seeing the full solution to this, especially if you're an elected official or on a set, give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. There's something I'm missing here, but long term wise, I don't see it. It just feels electoral to me. And that short term political thinking is what kills us in this country. It's I need to get through the next election, not what are we doing to plan for the next 10 years from now. And I don't quite know how to fix that. Again, I don't know if I don't like longer terms. I like the short turnaround stuff with elections, because that keeps representatives accountable. But that short term thinking is tough to deal with. It creates a lot of really bad incentives for people not to think 10, 20, 50 years out about what the consequences of government actions are, or even a few months out, the consequences of trying to do something that feels good short term, but in fact is destructive to groups of people that aren't your voters, or you're just not thinking of at the time. All right. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. Again, give us a call, 585-346-3000, if you want to weigh in on this. Keep talking about this, and then talk about funding for the zoo next here on A Free Solution. Talk to you soon.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Hey, this is Kevin Wilson, host of A Free Solution. You ever need a tool for just one project, but didn't want to spend the cash for something you'd use just once or twice? Well, there's a new tool library in Rochester where you can borrow just the thing you need instead of buying a new one. It's called the Tool Shed from the Southeast Area Coalition, and membership starts at just $25 a year. Use it for home projects or to support your business. Learn more and become a member at seektoolshed.org. That's SEAC toolshed.org.
As a veteran of the United States military, I can finally get the opportunity to enjoy special events, things that we couldn't afford, thanks to VetTix.
Every empty seat at a concert, a game, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Visit vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Only available in the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com. Official top quality tees, hoodies, and coffee mugs depicting the colorful WYSL logo, or the already famous Mount Worstmore line of merch depicting Mount Rushmore style are for worst presidents. Of course, you know who is front and center up on that mountain. WYSL official items make perfect gifts, or they're a great way for you to make a personal statement. Locally produced and sold only in the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thanks again for joining us, getting live here until 2 p.m. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000 if you want to participate in the show. And we got a few comments I want to get to too, but two other things. One, I want to comment on when some of you listening may have heard the new PSA they had in there, like, for real, if you live in the Rochester area, check out that tool shed. You know, this is just something I'm doing to be nice, and you know they're not paying for it. It's just an organization I care about. Seek Toolshed, SEAC toolshed.org. If you want to rent tools in the Rochester area, so they're on University Ave in the city. You go there, you're able to rent a few tools at a time for your business or just for your home. So makes it so you don't have to go out and buy stuff if you don't want to, right? Like if you're just going to use that one saw one time. So they have a bunch of tools, electric and otherwise there. So check it out, seektoolshed.org. Just something I care about. That's one of those ways in which I want to get involved in the community. I love organizations that they're just trying to do something to help people be up on their feet on their own. And all right, so one other point before I get to some of these comments too is the reason why I'm a little bit more skeptical of the gas tax reduction compared to like other tax reductions is like that goes towards a specific thing. And I know like this is sacrilegious in libertarian circles sometimes, but like I don't mind things that go towards a specific thing sometimes. Like if we have a fee associated with something that goes directly towards a service, well, okay, we can decide whether or not that service is necessary. But if it's a thing that's going to exist like roads, then okay, I'm fine with a specific tax going towards roads. I'm much more worried with something like an income tax. I don't like the income tax because then that's used for everything, right? Like there's no negotiation on like, well, do we need to lower or raise this tax to pay for this specific service that the people who are paying the tax are using, right? Like the gas tax is associated with people in theory using roads for the most part, right? You might use it for lawn mowing equipment, whatever, but nonetheless, I'm a little bit more okay with that than a general tax, which can then be used for anything. You know, it's just distributed. You know, is it used towards you know, welfare programs? Is it used towards just a slush fund to subsidize businesses politically connected to politicians? Is it used towards, you know, whatever type of program you don't want to use? It's a lot harder to attack those things one-on-one when they're just coming from a more general fund. When there's a specific fee associated with that, especially when it's tied to the people who use it, I could be a little bit more okay with it. Again, I'm a libertarian, not an anarchist, so I could be a tiny bit more okay with it, even if I am critical overall of spending and how that money gets spent and who those contracts go to, all that stuff. There's plenty to criticize and the road stuff. I hate, well, not like is a way too strong a word. I don't dislike as much taxes tied to a specific thing. But let me get back to some of these comments here too. Shelly on YouTube says, I sent my flyer back, return to center, no representation. Yeah, that's how I feel about those flyers. I hate those things. Again, you got to look. Some of them are stuff sent as like official business of the state, or, you know, the Congress has like franking privileges, right? So they can send out stuff to their constituents. And they don't have to pay a fee with that. They have to pay the production cost. But as long as it's not political, it's informative, right? They're able to do that. But that's such a scam. I hate those things. Using our money to brag about what they did on your behalf, quote unquote. And then this one's interesting. You know, it's out of blue, but I appreciate this comment. Patricia Blanchard says on YouTube says, I wish I had enough money to discover it. It doesn't make me happy. Money makes misery bearable. Those with it don't realize how expensive and unhealthy being poor is. I mean, that's an interesting point too. With something like, we could bring it back to the gas tax thing, right? Like if you want to buy a more fuel efficient vehicle, right? If you wanted to go out and buy an electric car, so you didn't have to depend on, you know, spending money on gas, whatever, right? Either for environmental reasons or economic reasons, doesn't matter. Sometimes buying that more expensive thing is tough to do for some people. Now, I have some empathy for that, right? Again, I've talked about this in terms of buying, you know, make sure you buy like good, well-made American products if you can, because that stuff will last you long. If you have the resource to make that investment, great. You know, there's it's worth doing if that stuff lasts longer. But if you don't have the money to do those things, you end up buying the cheaper thing that doesn't last as long, and then you have to buy more of them. That's probably good. It's hard to dig yourself out of that hole when you don't have the resources to do it. Again, I have some empathy for that, you know, both in terms of consumption and other things where you get in the hole. And that's one of those problems it's tough to solve. And it's one of those things that when people talk about the welfare state, that's what the intent is, to address those issues in theory. Right now, it doesn't always work out that way, and it ends up trapping some people in poverty in many ways. But that's what the intent is. If I'm letting people make the good faith argument about those sort of assistance programs, right? Like in theory, that's how it's in practice. Doesn't always end up working out that way. But there's a great passage in one of my favorite book series by Terry Pratchett. It's one of the first Discworld series, and Sam Vimes is talking about how, you know, he wants to buy this like $50 pair of boots because the $50 pair of boots is going to last, you know, 10 years and it's going to keep his feet dry the whole time, but he never has that $50. So he buys the $10 pair of boots that are going to last a season and then be leaky the whole time. And by the time he ends up, buying all these boots every year, he's spent more money buying these cheap boots than he would have if he could have just gotten the $50 pair of boots. And that's the idea behind it. I have empathy knowing I've been in that situation. My family's been in that situation. It's kind of expensive to be poor. I have empathy for this. I just don't always think the state is the best person to solve those issues. And Shelly on YouTube says, I'm slowly working on grading towns and neighborhoods on how disabled friendly they are. I've been asked to review disability and elderly clients to determine the grant would result in positive results. Interesting. And in compliance with ADA stuff. Actually, I'll use this to pivot a little bit to the zoo. My wife was surprised when she visited the zoo that a lot of doors don't have like the automatic open things. Or at least she couldn't see them easily, which there's a thing with like ADA compliance stuff where it doesn't just help people who are in wheelchairs or whatever. It also helps like moms with strollers. Like those automatic doors are clutch, when you're not trying to, especially if you're by yourself, not trying to like pull open the door and kind of back through awkwardly. Those things are great. And same with curb cuts and things like that. So there's a lot of, ADA stuff, some of it mandated, some of it just places trying to do the right thing to help accommodate their potential customers. That helps not just that intended audience, but everyone. And yeah, so that's interesting, Shelly. I'd be very interested to see that because it's something I've kind of opened up to. I don't know how I feel about the mandates for this, and a lot of older buildings like can't comply with some of the requirements of the the ADA. But like when my wife broke her ankle, we discovered how many buildings in Rochester are just totally inaccessible. Like, again, I have empathy for that too, because like we're just like, oh well, she can't go into this place because there's no way to like safely get her up or down these stairs with a broken ankle. Guess they're just not going here. They lost a customer. And Shelley also pointed out there's a strip mall, I guess, with half a mile of sidewalk and 4 curb cuts. Yeah, I mean that type of stuff is, again, it's not good business practices. The question is, I guess, from a policy wise perspective, right? Is that something that we need to mandate, or is that something that people like Shelly or me can call out on these specific businesses and just be like, hey, listen, like as a parent who's trying to get a stroller in, or as someone who has a temporary injury, or as anyone else just advocating on friends or neighbors, whoever, is there a way to make this more friendly to people who want to use your businesses or services, right? And that's the question. It doesn't need to be mandatory. And then who gets exemptions for it? Do state, local governments get exemptions for it? The federal government exempts themselves from so much, like all the ADA stuff, all the exit sign stuff too, like the fire safety stuff is. I don't know if this is still the case in the Capitol building, but when I was a tour guide there, they didn't have like a lot of fire exits around because they felt like it messed with the aesthetic of the building, so they just didn't have them, even though it's a requirement for everyone else. And John Barron on Facebook says Thomas Queter has a YouTube video showing how so many places he goes are not handicap accessible. Yeah, Tom Queter, who's also running for U.S. Senate, by the way, is a good candidate to check out, and he's been a guest on the show a few times, and he's called in a bunch. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I don't know if I might have seen that video, but he does talk about this all the time because he is in a wheelchair, and him getting in places is tough. All right, so thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. And when we come back again, I plan on talking about a few more contrarian issues, but keep leaving those comments or give us a call, 585-346-3000 if you want to weigh in on any of this stuff, or just talk about what's on your mind. We're going to be back here in just a few minutes on A Free Solution.
celebrating 35 years. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the News 10 NBC forecast on WYSL. For tonight, clouds will increase, give way to rain after midnight tonight, which will be heavy at times, low of 56. Rain will continue into early tomorrow morning. For that morning commute, we're going to watch out for limited visibility and pooling and ponding on the roadways. Doesn't last all day, though, as we transition over to isolated showers in the afternoon. Thursday, we'll see a high temperature of 67. For Thursday night, we'll see things begin to clear out as clear skies take over with a low of 52. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Alex Bielfeld on your WYSL stations.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
There are summertime on- and off-road adventures waiting for you at Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Anthony Drive off Route 96 in Victor. Enjoy the freedom and sunshine in one of America's favorite four-wheel drive vehicles, like the 22 Jeep Grand Cherokee WK Laredo 4x4, just $399 a month for 36 months. Must be returning lessee. The 2022 Ram 1500 Classic Warlock Crew Cab 4x4 pickup is just $299 a month for 36 months. Must be a Conquest lessee. The 22 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 is just $299 a month for 36 months. Must have Conquest or be returning lessee. And the 22 Jeep Wrangler Sport Sahara 4x4 convertible is just $399 a month for 42 months. $2,500 cash and trade. $3,500 for Grand Cherokee. First payment, DMV. Taxes and fees due at signing. Other conditions may apply. See dealer for details. We're here to fully serve Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram customers in Victor, Canandaigua, Macedon, Fairport, and throughout the Metro and Finger Lakes. Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 6560 Anthony Drive in Victor.
Forget the fluff and silly stuff. Get the facts right now. Only on News 1040 AM.
Your family is growing, and it's time for a new home. Why buy a used house with someone else's style when you can afford a new Faber home, built to suit your taste and your needs? Start fresh, build new with Faber. Faber Homes can customize your home to meet your wishes and dreams. Faber Homes is now building in 6 locations. Visit the Faber Homes website at faberhomes.com and find the plan of your dreams or a quick deliver home. Give Faber Homes a call today at 247-4800 or visit faberhomes.com for our current incentives. Faber Homes, great price.
Next to life itself, time is God's greatest gift. Every minute of your child's precious school years should be spent in devotion to truth, not some agenda. An Archangel School K-12 classic Catholic-based education fosters achievement, not conformity. Affordable, safe, small class sizes, and zero time wasted on CRT or Common Core. Your family values are honored, and parental involvement is warmly welcomed. Archangel School kids learn to soar, not march. 247-1112.
Empowering communities one relationship at a time is our commitment at Tompkins. Our customers have thrived thanks to our focus on local lending and their commitment to the customers they serve.
Tompkins helped us to finance the purchase of our beautiful new 8,000 square foot building.
Tompkins has always been there for us.
We see a long relationship with Tompkins. They're good people.
Tompkins, banking, insurance, wealth. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Investment and insurance products are not FDIC insured, not bank guaranteed, and may lose value.
All-Star Custom Apparel and Design is your local source for screen print, embroidery, vinyl transfer, online storefronts, logo designs, decaling your vehicles, and promotional items. Stop in and see us at 45 High Tech Drive in Rush. Check out our Facebook page or visit our website, allstarcustomapparelanddesign.com. All-Star will get your name recognized with customer service that is second to none. Call 585-623-4000 to see what All-Star can do for you.
Whether you're in the suburbs, the country, or the city, and no matter what kind of home you live in, Isaac can help make you comfortable. Right now, get a Lennox air conditioner for 0% interest for up to 60 months. Visit IsaacHeating.com today.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thanks again for joining us. Again, we're live here on WYSL today until 2 p.m. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000 if you want to participate in the show. Of course, we're live online, too, on the Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, and the Kevin Wilson Facebook page and Kevin Wilson Twitter as well. Make sure you check those out. Of course, if you want to catch us later, you can do it there. You can also do it on the podcast. Most podcasting services have us. And of course, you go to WYSL1040.com and get the podcast there too. And we'll get to a couple more of those comments. So Patricia on YouTube says they put a ramp up at the library here. That's I think she had 45-degree angle, corrected that. And wheelchairs and possibly up. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I'm sure the intention was there, but without understanding what was actually necessary and helpful in that situation, that can be the opposite of helpful. Shelly on YouTube's also commenting saying like she's working with Tom Queter on the Towns Neighborhood stuff. Getting excited to see what you guys find out with that stuff. I find this stuff interesting. I have a lot of empathy for this, and again, I think there's good reason to advocate for this, not just in terms of like forcing compliance with this stuff, but again, for looking out for our community, for looking out for our friends and neighbors. And it doesn't always require the state or force to do this stuff. It's just educating folks on like what can be helpful and helping businesses get to the point where they're able to do this stuff, right? And to do it correctly in a way that's going to be helpful and useful. And when new stuff is going up, doing it right the first time, so that all of our neighbors, if you have a physical condition that makes it hard to get in, or again, a mobility issue, a sight issue, etc., how do we help folks out as much as possible, right? Again, I think that's a worthwhile thing to do in its own right, and we don't always need the state to do that. And then speaking of voluntary stuff, Gene on Facebook says the strobe lights on school buses are voluntarily added to the buses after an accident in Ottawa is caused by fog. To this day, they use the lights. They're left up to the driver according to law. I used mine this morning because it was quite foggy. That's interesting. I didn't know about that. That's why those lights exist. So that's a good way to bring attention to that. And if they're voluntarily added, even better, right? Like that's an innovation for safety that didn't have to come from the state. Great. And let's see. I know we have a few more coming in too. John Barron just talking about how news they keep having reports about extreme heat this summer and keeping children and pets safe in vehicles. They're telling people not to put objects in the back seat to remind you that that your child pet there isn't your child and pet the most important object already back there. Yeah, I do see that stuff all the time. It's kind of it's not funny, right? Because like it does happen every once in a while, right? Like people just like they get into a routine or whatever, and unfortunately those things happen. I mean, both children and pets, like unfortunately there's always a few deaths every year from that type of thing. And yeah, it is something to watch out for. And especially with the pets, sometimes people will think like you can leave, your pet in a car for a little bit and it's not going to be a big deal, but those cars heat up quick. This is one of those things, I'm passionate about. I love dogs. It's something that's very much part of my life, is advocating for animals. And yeah, you shouldn't leave your dog in the car for more than like a minute. And that is one of those things that's it's not legal to do. And I know like it with both dogs and kids, like people used to do that all the time, and most pets and kids would be fine, but really, especially on those hot days, it heats up a lot quicker than you think, and it can cause serious issues a lot quicker than you think. So don't leave them in there for any period of time. It can be really dangerous. So let me get to like what I intended to talk about like a whole segment ago, which was the funding for the Seneca Park Zoo too. Again, this is nothing against them, right? Like they are a zoo that's affiliated with the county. They also have a fundraising arm. They know that's like a 501c3 too. They're getting $121 million to expand in a bunch of ways. They want to do like a rainforest exhibit, and they want to do an aquarium. And some of that money is coming from the state of New York, and some of that's coming from the county. And again, it sounds nice. Like it really, like it sounds like it's going to be cool, right? Like is something that, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite for this, but like, yeah, I'll probably still take my kid to that because he's going to find that fun. In the same way, I'm probably still going to go to Bills games, even though I'm mad about the subsidy there too. Like it's corrupt. It's way too much money. It's not necessary. But for those same both I feel similarly about both those things. It's nothing against those institutions or the joy that they're going to bring to people. It's just that why should our taxpayer dollars, our hard-earned money, be taken from us to go to those things that don't necessarily, like that don't equally benefit everyone, and that aren't necessary in a situation where we may be soon facing an economic downturn and funding might be tight. Again, everyone gets scared of the recession word coming about, right? But like, it's not, despite Joe Biden's assurances on Twitter this morning that the economy is the best ever. Color me skeptical of that. I'm very skeptical that the economic situation is just all roses and sunshine. No, it ain't. And you can look around, you can see that it ain't. And so, given that too, is it necessary? Does it make sense in this situation, especially given the number of problems that exist in Monroe County specifically? $121 million, with a big chunk of that coming from local taxpayers, with the number of problems that we have in terms of violence, and the number of problems that we have in terms of economic development, and the number of people here are still struggling to emerge from poverty. Does it make sense to take that money and use it on a zoo? Again, I love this. I like the zoo. My kid likes the zoo, or he seems to. I don't know. He's still a baby. He doesn't always express his opinions clearly, but he seems to like it. Is that something that we should be spending our money on? And now I'm a bit of a curmudgeon about that, right? Like, why would you be against that? Everyone loves the zoo. Again, there's a whole bunch of things. Like, I might like that thing, but do they need to take our money? Is it just to take our money from that? Is it just to take money out of my pocket in order to fund that thing? And is it necessary to do that thing too? Can we do this without taking that money out of our pocket? And that's what it is. It's done through taxes, sales taxes, all sorts of stuff, right? Income taxes, money coming from the state, whatever. Is it just to do that? And how do you explain that to me? And this is why I said I was doing a contrarian show, right? Like, that's something that a lot of politicians aren't going to run on, right? Most folks aren't going to say, like, I'm against funding the zoo. And people like the zoo. It's popular. People might say it about the Bills. Again, I like the Bills. Go Bills. But should they be getting a state subsidy for this? Do they need a state subsidy to build their new stadium? With the Bills, absolutely not. There's just no question. It doesn't need to happen. With the zoo, I get that's a government institution in some ways, but is it necessary to spend our money? No, it's not. Again, this is an expansion to bring a tropical exhibit in an aquarium to there. Do we need that? No. And I know this is interesting. I'll get to a few more comments online to show saying, so the same state that wouldn't give rescue loans to the Catskill game farm, right? They were taxed like crazy because the county assumed that they were making tons of money. I don't know about that situation specifically. If you have a link to that, send it on my way. I'll look into that more. I don't know about that one, but same thing. And then Gene says there are 30 trillion reasons why our economy is not the best it's ever been. Yeah, that's a huge part of it. The inflation that we're facing right now is, at least in large part, a result of reckless government spending by the Trump administration and the Biden administration. And Brian is asking, I wonder what metrics Biden used to determine that the economy was so good. I think part of that was that, like, more people were at work, right? And he says that today, thanks to the economic plan and the vaccination plan that my administration put in action, America has achieved the most robust recovery in modern history. It's more that people were coming out of the pandemic. A lot of jobs were lost because of that and because of lockdowns and government policy. And now those people are re-entering the workforce, and he's taking credit for it, right? And he's like, thanks to my plan. Like, no, it just is the virus burned out a little bit. It was people all over the economy, not just the president, working towards getting people to feel safe enough to go back out again, to go to work, to reducing the actual number of illnesses, both through treatment and through vaccination. There's a whole bunch of stuff. The president doesn't get to take credit for that. He can't stand that. The president is both has the power to be far more destructive than people think and has far less power than you think. It's a lot of stuff that happened there. And after we come back, I'll address a few more of these comments. Love the comments today. Again, and if you want to give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We're going to be back here on A Free Solution in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
The WYSL store is now open. With nicer weather, your car needs an official Voice of Liberty bumper sticker. There's a great selection to help you show your love of God, the Constitution, and free and safe schools. Here are just a few available. Shut Up, Fauci, Kathy Hochul, Save America, Support the Second Amendment, Scam Alert, January 6th, God, Please Help Us, Close the Mexican Border, Save America, Stop Voting for Democrats. And there are gas pump stickers reading, Democrats did this. These are standard weather-resistant bumper stickers guaranteed to get you horn honks and thumbs up in traffic. Choose from other locally made WYSL Voice of Liberty merch too, like tees, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Perfect gifts for any Liberty lover. Check out the exclusive WYSL Mount Worstmore shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs depicting our 4 worst presidents. Guess who's front and center? Shop the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Hey, this is Kevin Wilson, host of A Free Solution. You ever need a tool for just one project, but didn't want to spend the cash for something you'd use just once or twice? Well, there's a new tool library in Rochester where you can borrow just the thing you need instead of buying a new one. It's called the Tool Shed from the Southeast Area Coalition, and membership starts at just $25 a year. Use it for home projects or to support your business. Learn more and become a member at seektoolshed.org. That's SEAC toolshed.org.
A Free Solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us. Again, we're live until 2 p.m. Got one more segment left, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. And yeah, we're talking about, a couple different things. We're talking about whether or not money should be used to subsidize, things that are entertaining, things that even feel good for the community. And my answer is going to be no. They shouldn't be taking our money from that. Like there are other ways to do that. And if that means that we don't get the big fancy thing that like is ideal, maybe that's not the best solution. Maybe it's not necessary to do that. Maybe there are other ways that we should be able to keep our money and use that for a payment, especially in the time of rising inflation. As more and more of our money is getting eaten up, not just by taxes but also just the general expense of living in New York State and living in this country in an inflationary period. Again, going back to that comment on Facebook about, what metrics is Biden using to determine the economy so good? Yeah, okay, so like the job numbers are, looking a little bit better than like what they were in the thick of the pandemic in 2020. Well, yeah, of course they are. You don't get to take full credit for that, but we have other problems now. I bet there's not going to be a tweet about how, picnic the cost of like ketchup or whatever it was, the stupid 4th of July tweet that they did last year, and like, oh, it's cheaper now to have a 4th of July meal. Give me a break. No one's gonna be saying that now. That's for sure. And if you're able to find all the food that you want and you can afford it, it's not just the job numbers. Like that's a thing that matters. It's fuel prices, food prices, consumer good prices, on electronics, on vehicles, all sorts of stuff that contributes to the economy being well or not well. And yeah, I think we might be in for a rough ride. And let me get to this other comment too from Gene. It says, we can build and maintain bridges without taxes. Yeah, we could. Well, maybe. All right. I'll acknowledge, my good friend Larry Sharp's plan. He talks about how we can use sponsorships to pay for stuff, right? Pay for roads, right? Like just kind of sell advertising rights to that. And I agree. I'll say this, that like someone who works in like the ad industry, I'm skeptical of how much inventory people are going to want for out of home advertising, like on highways, and whether or not you'll be able to sell effectively like the naming rights or just like, billboard rights for some of that stuff. There's only so much value you can get out of it, but we certainly could reduce the burden on us through either advertising rights or, right of way rights as well. Like there's a way people do that now. Like the city of Rochester uses like some like light pole infrastructure, for instance, for like cell phone boosters. I don't know what the exact name is called, but basically just a way to like boost cell phone signal. That's a good thing. That's a good way to use your infrastructure in a way that doesn't force me, the resident, to pay for it through any of my taxes. I think that's a good thing. I don't know that it would fully eliminate taxes given the overextension of resources and of commitments that our governments have made. But so we'll have to get to a point where that stuff can offset most, if not all, of the cost of taxes, if that's something the voting public decides is worthwhile. But it's definitely something to strive for. I don't know if it'll totally eliminate it, but the plan to do that type of stuff, to sell naming rights, to sell to lease the space to companies who need a spot to do things like, again, put the cell towers or whatever, and then to sell the advertising too. Great, love it. Let's do more of it. Great. Anything that we can do that doesn't require extraction of resources, especially from non-users, awesome. Absolutely love it. Because like it can drive me nuts with things like like the MTA, like New York State taxes go to subsidize that in some ways, and I'm like, oh, I don't really benefit from that in any direct way. It's a little bit tough for me to swallow that some of my taxes are going to pay for that. So why should I? And so the more that they can get self-sustaining either through user fees or advertising or whatever, great. Let's do more of that. And yeah, Brian on Facebook says, you won't be able to drive out for a picnic this year. Yeah, right. You got to afford it. Picnic at home for 4th of July. That's what you're gonna get. And no, just all saying they did say it was 16 cents less this year. Did they? I hope they didn't do that tweet again, because it would be not hilarious. But like I feel like the Biden administration's kind of gaslighting us a bit, right? Like they're just like, the economy is great, guys. Everything's doing awesome. Yeah, no, it's not. Come on, like, is it too much to ask? Maybe it is too much to ask. Is it too much to ask for politicians who are in power to not constantly spin things in a way that makes them look good, right? Like to just like honestly address some of the problems. like whatever you get, because this isn't a Republican or Democrat thing. This is like an anyone in power type of thing. Republican, Democrat, I suspect probably independents too. Even libertarians, if they ever got elected, would be tempted to do this. To not like look the problems that still exist in the face and say, okay, we still have this issue to address, and that is something that like we need to do, and here are some ways to move forward on that. Again, occasionally you'll get that, but a lot of times it's just everything's good, you guys, and here's just keep supporting us through this next election. I mean, I get the strategy. I know he's trying to do, like, it would be politically dangerous for Joe Biden to be honest about this stuff, because he knows, for better or worse, if he is honest with his assessment of the economy and the things that he at least ought to know he should do to help make things better for us, it would endanger his political prospects, because then Democrats would be likely to lose in the midterm elections, even if he's honest and he gave actual solutions to this stuff. Again, reduce spending, reduce tariffs, reduce taxes, and reduce regulation to try to get people back to work. Great. But again, that has a political cost of, like, sometimes some unions don't like the tariff reduction and the regulation reduction, so it would cost him his constituency there. Being honest in politics is tough, unfortunately, holding together that coalition. And again, I don't know exactly how to deal with that problem. That is a problem of representative republics like we have, democratic republics like we have. And I always say this about the system, that what's that Winston Churchill quote? Democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. It is a fundamental problem of the electoral system that we have, when we have to have that short-term interest addressed with frequent elections. Again, it is better than the alternative, but it is that trade-off for having a system that is responsive to the people's needs. And it's an integral part of that system. It's hard to extract those bad incentives from what we have. And I'll get to this comment on YouTube from Patricia again. It says, do you seriously want them to tell us the truth? They don't believe we can handle the truth. Yeah, there's something to that. And we saw that a lot with COVID. Political leaders didn't think that we, the people, could handle the truth about a lot of stuff. So they would tell their noble lies about, well, here's what we think about this virus, and we're going to tell you what we think you need to hear to act the way that we want you to act, rather than just be honest and upfront with you about things like mask use, things about viral spread, and all sorts of stuff, right? We've done a million shows on this by this point. But the thing is again, that the mistrust that they engendered by telling us what they think we needed to hear rather than the truth is incredibly dangerous if you want to continue to maintain trust in the people. And they lost that. They did with so many folks, even folks who might have otherwise been loyal to the government. A lot of folks like, wait, why are they misleading us on this? Why didn't they knew what this was, and they purposely told us something else? Why didn't they just trust us to be able to handle the situation as is? And as you start digging in that stuff, you can see so much of it. All right. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're out for the week, but be back on Monday. Have a wonderful week, folks. Take care.